Boy, I got a near full from this lady. I'm fixing her thing.
You set? No, we set.
Thanks. You should have seen me. You should have seen the mess I was in. I was covered with mud from head to toe.
Can you just sign these and get rid of them?
No Steve today?
Oh, Indiana's. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of March 3rd, 2015. Roll call, please.
Yeah, 4 selectmen present, town council, and the town administrator are present. Mr. Holmes is absent.
Announcements, Mr. Titlebaum.
A couple. First off, the Beach and Tourism Exposition is probably going to be moved off a week. We thought it was going to be Election Day, but we believe it'll be the following week. Still working on that. Second thing is, a couple of weeks ago, a gentleman named Nicholas Memley passed away. He was a member of the Open Space Committee, and I believe some other committees in town. Used to see him at the YMCA, and I'd just like to have a moment of silence in his honor, if we could.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Lastly, after this most recent storm, I came back into town about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I can tell you that the streets of Wareham were one heck of a lot better than the roadways that the Commonwealth was responsible for, including Route 24 South and 495 South. So they're working hard, they're doing the best they can with the equipment they have, and frankly, I felt a lot safer once I got off the highway than when I was on it.
Mrs. Whiteside.
I don't think I have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tropiano.
Nothing here.
Mr. White has, as usual, Thursday morning breakfast, coffee, and donuts at the Agawam Village Meeting House. I believe this week is going to be candidates Jim Gilberti and myself will be there. One other thing, we have a citizen in Wareham who's been here, been involved with the Cape Verdean community for a long time, had a bed and breakfast in Onset, was very instrumental in our 2014 celebration that was done. He unfortunately has been taken ill. He's starting to recover, and I would ask everybody if they go to their church, temple, whatever, when they go to pray, a little extra prayer for Rudy Santos. He's having a very difficult time right now, and I'd ask everybody to give a little extra shout out to him. That's it, thank you.
Okay, next up, citizens' participation. Anyone here to speak to the board this evening? Seeing none? Okay, next, appointments.
And then we're
What are we
I'm
gonna
gonna
do?
do a 48-hour, just,
Do we have a 48-hour thing?
yeah,
Yep.
the people
It's a-
from
yep.
Okay.
Lynn William, the ladies left it out.
Let's see. I have
this one.
Veterans Council. You know what? It's way down here in the bottom, too.
It's okay. It's there.
All right. We have an appointment to the Veterans Council.
Yeah, this particular appointment is,
Joseph Capello Sr.
yeah, I believe is,
Is he here?
no.
No.
I think that's the veterans agent, or it's the one from.
He's the
We have
VFW
Veterans
representative.
Council, VFW representative.
That'd be the American Legion representative.
This says VFW.
This says VFW. Is the American Legion?
It's the American Legion, I believe. Right, Bob? Yes. Yes, we'll have to change that and fix it. Sorry about that, Mr. Capella.
No problem.
Take a motion on that, please.
Okay, move that we appoint Joseph S. Capello Sr. to the Wareham Veterans Council as the American Legion representative.
Second.
Any
The term,
questions?
please read the term. To expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank
All
you.
right, application for South Shore Race. Oh, we're gonna skip down, excuse me.
We're gonna go to a 40, we're gonna switch to a 48-hour to bring up people from
Not
Lynn
reason-
Road and Bouchant Way, which has to do with a warrant article on town meeting, which has been pending for about a year and a half. So why don't you, all three of you come up and we can take care of this and get you home.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Diane Murphy, and I'm one of the trustees of Beaver Meadows Homeowners Association. There's 3 trustees in all, and
I'm Roy Coleman. I'm the trustee and treasurer right now of the Beaver Meadows Homeowners Association.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
we've put together some packets of materials for you to see and review, and I'll pass those out this time.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane.
It's not in here. No, it's not.
Thank you.
It's good to see everyone again. It's getting to be a habit.
Yes, it is.
We're here in our continued efforts to seek acceptance by the town of Lynn Road and Bishant Way. As you may know, we're a diverse residential neighborhood with 2 cul-de-sacs. There's maps of our neighborhood in your packet. The first one is the layout plan that we completed last year, and this second map is an older map, but easier to read. I can't read the layout plan without a magnifying glass, but our residents are good citizens of Wareham. We're registered to vote. We volunteer to help the town. We have town sewerage. Mail is delivered to our houses. School buses pick up our kids at our homes. Our utilities are all underground. And we, in lieu of street lights, we have our homeowners maintain lanterns in front of our homes. We have been pursuing the acceptance of our streets for some time. And last fall, JC Engineering completed all our layout plans, which are on file at the planning department. We also asked them to expose the bounds, and they did that on October 23rd, 2014. And in the packet, there is a communication from Charles Rowley, who his firm put together the inspection for the town of our streets. And Mr. Rowley indicated that the bounds are all in place. So our meets and bounds have been completed in furthering our acceptance of the streets. On October 27th, he stated that all the bounds were in place and that our streets were worthy of acceptance. Bill Andrade, who is a contractor for paving, and Charlie Rowley and the trustees walked the streets to discuss the items that they thought needed adjusting. In the packet, you'll see the report that was issued by Charles Rowley. That's the last issue. And he indicated that they were minor items, but they needed to be addressed. And we were going great guns, hoping to get the pavers in as soon as possible, and we got hit with all this snow. And so at this point, we have no idea what things look like under the snow. The plows have been around and done a great job. But we need to have the snow melt before we can get pavers to come in. We are talking to 3 different paving companies to see what needs to be done. Basically, they're small things. There's some cracked pavement around a manhole cover on Lynn Road. We need to get the binders in front of a few houses paved. We need to have the joint cracks that put crack seal on them. There were some little paving stones in the circle at Lynn Road. We adjusted those so that they wouldn't get pulled out, and so that's been done. As far as I know, it's still the way it was originally, but, so our hope is that once the snow is gone, we can proceed with the paving and all of those issues will be taken care of. Dave Prichette has put us on the agenda for the March 9th Planning Board meeting. It's unlikely that all the snow will be gone by then. We've met the requirement to have the meets and bounds in place. We're going to ask that you allow us some time to complete the other items once the snow is gone, and we can get that done as soon as possible.
Questions from the board, Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes, your article is already on the warrant by operation of law for acceptance at the April town meeting. You filed the petition. It goes on. We're not due to have our favorable action votes to the FinCom until, I believe, April 7th.
We'll be doing our voting on the 24th and 31st of the month.
24th and 31st. So you've got some time this month, hopefully, to get the folks out there to take care of these issues. I mean, going through these, they're not major issues.
No.
Somebody's going to come out there and get this work done in 3 hours. But nonetheless, town meeting typically likes to see that they've been done before they'll give you an affirmative vote on that sort of thing. So it would behoove you to get it done as soon as you can anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, you folks out there in that neighborhood have been through an awful lot, and I can't imagine anybody sitting up here not giving you a happy recommendation following the completion of these minor tasks.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Whiteside?
Thank you for your presentation. It's
Mr.
very complete.
Tropiano?
You know, these road acceptances are so difficult today. You know, in the old days, they just approved the entire subdivision and it was done. But it gets so much convoluted and so difficult to get done. We have so many roads that aren't accepted. I'm happy to accept your road.
No.
I'll be happy to accept your road. And of course, once a few things are completed, then we probably have no issue.
Wonderful.
We've been working on this, I think, for a year and a half, which is really disappointing it's taken so long. We will basically, at this point, we can't vote to have a yes or no vote until basically Mr. Rowley signs off to the planning board, because he's been hired as the engineer for the planning board, and that's the way the process goes, as we all know. The planning board then comes back to the Board of Selectmen and tells us whether or not to go ahead and accept the road. Then we vote, then town meeting votes, and then we have the final vote afterwards. So we can actually hold off on this vote until a half hour before town meeting if we have to. It's not the way we like to do it, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And because of your situation, you're not going to be able to get this done till pretty close to that. So we'll do our best we can to try and make this work for you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for coming in. I just didn't want you to have to come in later on in the month and sit and wait with a lot of other people, because until you're done, we can't vote.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other 24-hour business about from the town administrator? No. Nope?
Nope,
No
nope.
one? Okay, fine, we'll move on. All right, next is the application of South Shore Race Management LLC and My Team Triumph for
There's nobody
the
here, I think.
annual Lazy Lobster 5 and 10 mile road race on Sunday, June 21st, 2015. And
I was,
they're looking for the use of town roads.
yeah, I was looking at this. They have two police total, and they have a 5 and a 10 mile. And if you look at the maps, I was hoping someone would be here from the event, because they're going to need a bunch of volunteers in order to man the roads, because if you look at the locations of the 5 and the 10 mile,
Farrington,
you know, and there's nothing in our application that explains how they're going to do that.
yeah.
Although, like I say, the police have signed off with 2, you know, fire and everybody else is off. The other piece we have, which, you know, we're going to have to deal with again, I think, is we have not a policy, but we have in our forms that are submitted, when any organization is running an event, if they have something at the DECA school this, I think, works out of, if they're going to have any outside vendors, We have that vendor issue that Mr. Holmes put in a while back at $25 a vendor. There's nothing here for us to know anything about that as well. I'd
Can we
like to
put this
hold this
off?
off for a week
Yeah,
and see if we can get them in so we get some
I
questions
think that would
answered.
be
that's a
appropriate.
great idea.
If that's okay with everybody?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Cedar update. Seems like you're here every day, every week. Are you tired of this?
They just love us and we love them.
I love it. Boy, you've been updating us on a, I swear it's every week.
We've been
I
on
guess it was
sequence
3
for a
weeks
while.
ago, I missed that one.
Yeah, well, I think because of the
Sorry.
grant, I was in a little bit more, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for the audience,
Scott?
just introduce each other again, even though everybody probably knows.
Sorry. Jean Connaughton, Chairman of CETA.
Salvador Pena, Director.
Okay. Just give us an update of where we're at this month.
Okay, we did have a meeting last evening, and we had quite a discussion with our information center, and a lot of good things, and we did approve the budget, and had some discussions. They are getting funding from the state this year, which is great, and they hope to install that internet service and have some video out there, so that would be an enhancement.
Yeah, because they've been cutting back so much, there's almost no, I mean, from one end of the state to the other, there's almost nothing now.
Well, for years, they weren't assisting us at all, but they
Yeah.
gave us a very good amount of money this year,
Okay.
very large. Other than that, now that the grant has been filed, now we have to start thinking about next year and the year after. So we initiated a discussion last evening on a planning session, or planning sessions, where we're going to develop a 1, 3, and 5-year strategy, so that we won't be caught at the last minute coming in and wondering if everybody's gonna vote for our project. So we hope to have it done by June or July, at least the 1 and the 3-year. And in our discussions, what we would like to do is invite some other boards or committees to come in and speak with us about what their plans are, so that we're not both working at opposite ends, and perhaps there may be some projects that we can work together on.
That's great.
So that's it for my third day home.
Hope you enjoyed yourself down in South Carolina. Mr. Holmes isn't here, so I'll take up the mantle because I know he would ask. We've been sitting basically, you know, with the Bay Point land that Cedar owns. Has any discussion been done, any decision of what you want to do with that land or where you stand?
We held an executive session, I believe, in the end of December. And at the end of that session, what we determined is we had more questions than we had answers. So we had voted no action at this time until we have 3 procedures that we'd like to go through, get more information, and then we'll get back to you with a recommendation.
Okay. If we need to have legal counsel, the board will be recommending that you use town counsel, just so you know. And we do have John Whitten as part of town council, who is an expert in zoning, et cetera,
Okay.
since he's written a bunch of books, so I think it'd be worthwhile. Mr. Titlebaum? Mrs. Whiteside?
I wasn't here when they did their presentation. Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. Kind of, I don't know why there's so much feedback tonight on these things. I don't know. Can you tell me who you would be, what are the boards and committees you might be working with?
The ones that we spoke about, I believe, were CPC, Historical, Tremont Nail.
Tremont Nail doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
We just.
No, we were talking
Brought
about the
that
open space and
space.
recreation, the CPA, Historic Commission, Historic District, and there was one.
Affordable housing.
Affordable Housing Trust, yeah.
We're going into places that we don't really want to go, but we haven't updated our master plan, and I'm not sure how we can create a document that really is looking to the future without having the members of the master plan committee, at least one of them there as well, because that's due for a review.
They will have one there, actually,
Hmm?
if they're going to all those committees. I know one
Yeah,
member of the
I know,
master
but
plan committee.
I just want to say that the master plan committee should
Sure.
also
Yeah, it should be
be
included.
represented on that.
Yeah, I think the goal was just to begin dialogue with other folks, because, since I've been here, our planning has sort of taken place with the public, but independent of those other organizations. So we wanted to try to formalize a relationship with them and bring them in. So one thing we thought is we'd just bring committee chairs in and have them talk with us about what their thoughts were, the priorities, so that we could see if there were places that made sense for us to plan together. I don't think it's as global as you might, as you may think it is from your question, or at least as I understand it from your question.
I'm just, the way you present it, you're looking for input.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Well,
Well-
what we're really trying to do is determine, we don't want to find out that we've made decisions to go this way and we
When
find out
somebody else is
CPC
going that way. Yeah,
way.
exactly.
And if there is a meeting of the minds, then we can move together.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
The other thing, which I actually started this today, but did some research on existing plans. One of my concerns is that we have lots and lots of plans, and I counted 21 plans today that I went through that are in existence today, and I'm not sure how many of the recommendations have actually been followed up on and implemented. So one of my goals to help us look at what we're doing is to review those plans and try to identify areas that we think we might be able to assist with.
Who are the 21 plans from you guys?
No, 21 plans in the town. So I'll give you the master plan being one of them. The harbor, there's a harbor plan. There's an open space and recreation plan, affordable trust. I mean, you can go on. So all of these plans that exist, and so I thought I would take it on myself to look at them all and see if I could see what's common across all of them, and then maybe try to see if there's a way for us to implement. I'm sure there are lots of very good recommendations in those plans. And so rather than sort of reinvent the wheel, go back and look at where we are and get some sort of an assessment on that.
You can also, just if you want, you can talk to Mr. Sullivan. The town does have 20 hours on the town site of available work through Serpent. We're late into asking, so it'll be later in the year, but I was hoping that we would use those 20 hours to kickstart the master plan update.
Sure.
Anything else, Mrs. Whiteside?
No, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Titlebaum, you had your hand up there?
Yeah, I just thought of something, came to my head after. I understand you're working with the folks in the Council on Aging. I'm not going to say the Council on Aging, because you're not working with the Council on
Right.
Aging. You're working with individuals interested in the Council on Aging to set up a nonprofit corporation that can serve as a fundraising and gift-giving analog, if you will.
Yes.
If there's any help you need with that, Attorney Bowen, I'm sure, be more than happy to help with that.
Sure.
To the extent that I know how to
Yeah,
incorporate things, I can help you too. So whatever you need with that, don't be afraid to ask one of
That's
us.
great to hear, because
I'm not going to charge him a fee, Patrick.
I attended a meeting, actually, Selectman Whiteside was at the meeting, and they,
There's
you know,
nothing
they
to do
asked
with
for our
dogs.
assistance, and we thought that it would be helpful if they had a mechanism, so that if we partnered in any kind of grant activity, that there was a formal entity that could receive funds.
Right, and I think that is the way to go. For many reasons, actually.
So right now, another thing I did today was look at bylaws, that we're gonna send them over some draft bylaws for them to take a look at to see if there are some things that make sense.
That's pretty simple for a single-purpose corporation. We're here to collect money and give it to those folks. That's those are your bylaws right there. Obviously you have to figure out the officers and the terms and all the other stuff, but that's just pro forma. You shouldn't have any sweat with that. But you probably want to ask these people to give you what they come up with. Remember, they're the ones theoretically coming up with this. And then, of course, out of the goodness of our hearts, council and I can take a look at it as well. Not as in terms of working for the town, but just as a donation of time, shall we say.
Great.
Okay, good.
Mr.
But
Chair-
I'm glad to hear that you're involved in that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add to a couple of quick things before we close out is, we also started a Facebook page today for our office, and we're, in the next month, we hope to get out an electronic newsletter, an e-newsletter.
And the reason we did that was because we're trying to identify additional ways to get public input. And it's a wonderful smile you have there. The good news about those is that on the pages are, on our Facebook page, folks can comment on anything that we post. It's not like an open forum for people to just write whatever they want to write. Usually,
Sometimes you have to be careful with what you wish.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I think it's good. I honestly welcome public feedback, whether I agree with it or not. And I think it's a good way to let people know what we're up to. I think we already had 50 followers after it was on for an hour. We had 50 people like the page. And then the second piece is the month we're using constant contact. Excuse me.
Constant contact.
Yeah, that's the T, right?
T,
Yeah, I love that T. That's why I said that. But Constant Contact, we'll be putting a newsletter together, so if you all want to get it, we can plug you in. It'll get delivered to your desktop once a month, and that'll be another way for us to communicate with folks who are interested in doing it. And the last thing I wanted to share, it's not great news, it's unfortunate, but we had our application for the grant, hospitality grant, had been favorably looked on by Commonwealth Corporation, and they had held off on entering us into a contract until they saw the governor's cuts, which he then cut the funds for it. So unfortunately, we're not going to end up getting the money, but we are still working with the hotel to try to have them help. And the recruitment that we had over at Town Hall was really wonderful. We had over 200 people come through and apply for positions. And the majority of those folks, I have data if you're ever interested in looking at, the majority of those folks were Wareham residents. So
It'd be good to get numbers of what we have for Wareham hirees there.
sure, I'm
'Cause
glad to do that.
I think
have
they're gonna
those.
be open. They were at the building department this morning finalizing stuff,
Mhm,
and I think they're gonna be open real close to the 1st of April.
mhm,
So
absolutely.
they're just
yeah.
about there.
Yep.
Mr. Tropiano.
I actually like the idea that somebody's thinking about taking the bull by the horns and looking at all those plans, because it's a lot of reading, it's a lot to take in.
Mhm.
And the last master plan, I think, has been kicking around for like 20 years.
95.
And how many, 25? So
20
20,
years, 95.
95, so 20 years. That's what I thought,
Yeah,
just from my own memory.
sure.
And I think we've done about 10 things in the whole plan,
Mhm.
you know. And hopefully someday we'll have a planner again, which would sort of help that whole situation. Obviously, without a planner, it's next to impossible. But if, I applaud you for trying to take and look at them all in an entirety, because sometimes they contradict each other, and maybe we'll get some insight into that with somebody
Absolutely.
actually spending some time on it.
Well,
you know.
thank you for saying that, and I will, produce a summary. My goal is to produce a summary of each of those documents with the top, say, 3 to 5,
Well,
highlights.
that's good, because something like that, at least, these plans are long and arduous, and lots of times you can't even begin to scratch the surface of these things over the course of many years. But if there's a plan where they all come together and they all have something in common, and we can take the top 3 or whatever and sort of work them, that's a good thing. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time and energy putting these plans together.
Sure, absolutely,
It's a shame to have plans that are sitting on a shelf.
yeah. Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just in thinking about it, we had a planner, a full-time planner for most of those years that essentially nothing got done.
I know.
We have a CETA director now, and we've got a planner. They used to be together, then they were separated, then everything seems to be changing. We have somebody out of CETA with the expertise in this. I don't necessarily know, and speaking of other communities, that you really want to have a full-time planner and a full-time CETA director, because in hearing from the other communities, half the time your planner is your grants manager now and writing grants and not just doing planning. So I think we're sort of deciding on the new future with how we work with the planners and use our dollars to maximize them. So.
I think Carver in particular just recently took their planner and actually put him in charge of economic development, planning, overseeing actually the building departments, et cetera. Conservation, all of it under one So this.
No, I didn't just offer you a raise, so.
No,
No, I heard more work, I didn't hear a raise.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I think he was seeing dollars running across the table.
yeah, I didn't see him doing this.
The bottom line is that there is concentration, things are compacting in. The only other thing I think we have is, we basically, on the grant, we're talking about the Heinz Field. I don't expect any answers today, but probably between you and the town administrator to get back to the public is what kind of plans we have and stuff. I'm not sure if we can afford to pave that per se, but I know we've had some discussions about being able to use that and try and work with GATRA to have some kind of shuttle that goes through the whole town and also includes that, and through onset as part of a long-term program. There's a possibility we could look at we have I think it's a company in Wareham that processes shells that come in for scallops and everything. We have a lot of, I think, Board of Health issues with it as well. But I could see Mr. Bowen shrinking back there. But there's a possibility we could possibly use crushed shells as a basis for the ground too there.
From nuisance to a parking lot near you.
Yeah, Victor Brown. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Just so,
Well, we'll know more in July when we get
when the grant comes.
so.
Just so you know, we've already talked to GATRA a little bit, and it's something that's really viable.
Sure.
And there's been 3 or 4 transportation meetings. I believe the board has just got today, I've given everybody a copy of the meeting from last week at GATRA with the new routes proposed for Wareham and some of the other areas that they cover. They are looking to expand the process.
Sure.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you.
Thanks.
You didn't get a very good tan, Gene.
No, I did not. But more fun than you were having here.
I'm sure you were.
All right, next is to vote on the third quarter billing for Bourne. And I move that we set the user fee to collect from the town of Bourne for the period January 1, 2015 through March 31 in the amount of $76,417.82.
Second.
Any questions by the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank you.
Right,
Mr. Chair,
next up-
sorry to interrupt. Mr. Campina sends his regrets, but we do have a break in onset right now due to some activities of somebody working within the streets from another entity, so he's over there working with that right now.
That would be onset water.
Yes.
I know they were having an issue, so that means our clay pipes over there. All right. We do have emergency funds, I assume, available.
Yeah, they're working on it now. They need to basically make sure all the water levels are down to be able to access the sewer pipe, and the weather's moving in, so timing is pretty terrible.
Yeah, plus it's the worst time of year weather-wise anyways with the temperatures. Just so everybody knows, those pipes are clay pipes back in the 70s, and when you go and dig in there, they just collapse all over the place.
Next up, we're going to vote on the annual election warrant, and Mr. Titlebaum will read it into the record.
Yep. Okay, I move as follows. Wareham Town Clerk, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, Town of Wareham. Plymouth SS to either of the constables of the Town of Wareham. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth, you are required to notify and warn inhabitants of the town who are qualified to vote in the town election to vote at Precinct 1, Memorial at Town Hall, 54 Marion Road. Precinct 2, Hammond School, 13 Highland Ave. Precinct 3, Minot School, 63 Minot Ave. Precinct 4, Deacon's School, 760 Main Street. Precinct 5, Deacon's School, 760 Main Street. Precinct 6, Minot School, 63 Minot Ave. On Tuesday, April 7th, 2015, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., to cast their votes in an annual town election for the following: Board of Selectmen, 1 position, 3 years. Board of Assessors, 2 positions, 3 years. School Committee, 2 positions, 3 years. Deputy Moderator, 1 position, 3 years. Housing Authority, 1 position, 5 years. Sewer Commissioner, 2 positions, 3 years. Sewer Commissioner, 2 positions, 2 years. Sewer Commissioner, 1 position, 1 year. Ballot questions. Summary. These questions are being presented to the voters in connection with the proposed change to the town annual budget submission requirements set out in the Wareham Charter. At present, Section 5-2A of the Charter does not specify an exact time period by which the school committee must submit its adopted annual school budget to the town administrator. The proposed charter amendment would require the school committee to submit its adopted annual budget to the town administrator, quote, no later than 20 days before the required date of submission per Section 5-3 in order to prepare a total town budget, unquote. The proposed charter amendment would also set a new deadline under Section 5-3 of the charter of, quote, "no later than January 25th," unquote, by which time the town administrator must submit the annual town budget to the Finance Committee for its review. A yes vote would amend Section 5-2A and 5-3 of the Wareham Charter to establish the proposed new budget submission deadlines. A no vote would make no change to the Wareham Charter with respect to the deadlines for submitting the annual budget. Question 1, shall the town of Wareham vote to accept the charter change to Section 5-2A? The final budget adopted by the school committee shall be submitted to the town administrator in sufficient time to enable him to prepare the total town budget he is required to submit by Section 5-3, yes or no? Question 2, shall the town of Wareham vote to accept the charter change, Section 5-3, by changing the wording to state no later than January 25th, yes or no? Given under our hands this 3rd April of March 2015, Alan H. Slavin, Chairman, Patrick G. Tropiano, Clerk, Stephen M. Holmes, Peter W. Titlebaum, Judith Whiteside, Board of Selectmen in the town of Wareham.
Second.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, 400. Thank you.
Okay, next up, a vote to merge the school bus maintenance. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to support the merger of the school bus maintenance operation into the municipal maintenance department, subject to satisfying all obligations under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 150E.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
I'd actually like to hear from the town administrator. I mean, we know what this is about, but the public should hear about it.
Thank you. Yes, we start talking about trying to save money, but often it's efficiency that we need to gain. We have the school bus garage located right by the municipal maintenance facilities. The municipal maintenance facility has the ability to put the buses on lifts, have them in there fully working. We have 2 mechanics within the town, and there's 2.5 mechanics within the school maintenance bus garage. What we're seeking to do is to merge the operations, bring the 2.5 mechanics over to the municipal maintenance department, and have the municipal maintenance do all the mechanical work upon the buses, and have that be part of their operations. The old school bus garage will cease to be a bus garage, and it will be turned over to the harbor master. The harbor master will then be able to use it for winter storage of the boats, which will also save us money that we're not paying for the storage. He can keep them heated. We don't have to worry about winterizing them as well. So that's just sort of the broad plan. But when you think about it, whereas before we had basically 2 mechanics on one side, 2.5 on the other, working on different projects, we'll now have, if the full force is there, 4.5 people doing so. You have a snowstorm, you have 4.5 people working on the plows, the sanders. If you're going to the school bus inspections, you now have 4.5 people working on them. We can actually respond, we can be efficient, and I appreciate the work the superintendent and school business manager have put behind this and coming up with a plan with us. It shows a great effort to work together. You'll see it's not going to be easy. There's 150E implications, and this is the first step. So I'm seeking support of the Board of Selectmen as we move forward on this operation.
Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
No, this topic's been bandied about, I think, for 1.5 years now, probably even by prior boards, I don't know. I'm just glad that we're finally getting to the point where we're in agreement to get this done. As Mr. Sullivan says, beyond the obvious money savings you'll have by not having to operate 2 garages, heat them, and everything else that goes along with that, the savings in terms of the effectiveness of the repairs on the vehicles, the ability to perform more and better repairs to the vehicles, makes this really a no-brainer. And I'd like to thank everyone involved to manage to sort of jumpstart this initiative after it has sort of lain fallow for a while and got it going, and now we're here to complete it. Thank you.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I just wanted to tell you that, again, I lend my support to the concept. It may not be an immediate savings in dollars, but it certainly is in efficiencies, which will result in savings in dollars.
Mr. Tropiano?
Nope, I'm perfectly ready to go.
I'll be very quick. This is something actually that's been asked for 7 years ago. Originally with the Capital Planning Committee, it was one of their first recommendations when they did the bus study, was to move everything in, and it's really disappointing it's taken 7 years to do something this simple. It's a real issue because when the bus pulls into the current facility, the rear door doesn't close because the bus is too long for the building. They don't have proper hydraulic lifts to lift the buses up. If we ever had an OSHA inspector come in, they'd close the whole place down in a second. It's a safety hazard. It's unfair for the mechanics working there, heat, everything else. Now being able to be in the municipal maintenance building, we have the extra mechanics. If a bus breaks down, it's easier to fix. It's much easier to be what I call proactive preventive maintenance, et cetera. So this is long overdue. We had a meeting, I believe, last week with the school committee, just a informal discussion. And I believe myself and Mrs. Whiteside made it very clear that we wanted this to happen immediately. So I thank everybody for pushing it forward. We need to have a vote, actually, so ask all those in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, 400. Thank
Okay,
you.
next up, discussion and vote whether to rescind the licensing. It says licensing fees, but I don't think that's what it is, for the Wareham Housing Authority.
I think they're actually inspectional fees, but
It's inspectional
I
fees.
think it's inspectional fees. It's not permitting fees, though.
no. Why don't you come up and set us straight what we're doing, what you're asking us to do here?
Mrs. Bronk has the plague.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Please introduce all three.
Okay.
Donna Bronk.
Jackie Hickey, Administrator.
Jean Donahue, member of the Wareham Housing Authority Board, Donna and myself.
Thank you.
To the Board of Selectmen.
Well, first, if we can just, if I don't, excuse me, but I think you had a question about what the purpose of this is, because you're right, the language that's on the agenda is not quite correct. We might want to correct it to waive permitting fees is what the discussion is about. That was what the letter we sent into Mr. Slavin referred to. And just for the record, thank you.
Go ahead.
Please be advised that the Wareham Housing Authority is scheduled to have over $1 million worth of upgrades at the Wareham Agawam Housing Development this April. I'm sorry, I don't have the right glasses, so please excuse me. Our current stock has been neglected for years, and the residents of Agawam are finally going to receive some much-needed work. We are therefore requesting a waiver for permitting fees for our upcoming project. The state does not include the permit fees in the bid proposal. These fees will take away from the deferred maintenance and renovations. Our Wareham housing community is comprised of 104 hardworking residents and seniors that make up the fabric of our community. They have predominantly worked in the cranberry and service industry, as well as other small local businesses. They are a large part of Wareham's past and character that we all know and love. Our upgrades will improve the value of our Wareham Housing Authority stock and improve the quality for our residents and our neighborhoods. Over the last year, we at the Housing Authority have paid 17% of our total budget to the town of Wareham for the services that we have received. And I list what we have paid. So it comes to a total of $86,203.52. We appreciate all of the work, and especially the maintenance department, the sewer department. We really thank you so much. They've helped us and communicate some of the functions of the town and how we can come to better work together for all of our citizens, for the citizens that are in the Housing Authority. So we thank you very much for your understanding, and we continue to hope and to strengthen our relationship between the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and the Board of Selectmen for our residents.
So to make it a little bit clearer for you, the $1 million in project renovations and upgrades, obviously not all of it involves a permitting fee. Many of the other local communities do in fact waive the permitting fees for their housing authorities. We know that the town is in a rough situation. Obviously, the housing authority has been in a rough situation for a while too, and maybe it's just our turn to get a nice pile of cash to do some nice things for our housing stock. But we're just getting bids in on the proposals now. So we don't have an exact figure for how much the permitting fees would be, because we haven't applied for them yet. And our contractors will not be compensated for the bidding fees, for the permitting fees, if you will. It's a separate part of the process. We're looking at approximately $12,000 of permits and fees, and whatever you could possibly consider along those lines. We're not asking you to make a decision tonight. We have to bring it up early on in the process so that we know what we're working with. Ms. Hickey referred earlier to 17% of our budget does go for services provided by the town. Just so that you're aware, our budget is about $500,000. Our operational budget is about $500,000, and again, as she said, 17% of that went for, services provided by the town, sewer, water, inspections. And permitting. So anything that you can do to will help us to reduce the amount of money that we have to take out of our operational budget to put towards these permitting fees. So we'd like you to take it under advisement, and if you have any questions, be happy to answer them. Ms. Bronk, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the situation that the Housing Authority is in. I mean, you all know, it's been tough. And this young woman, young compared to me, she's done a fantastic job trying to bring things back. But as we know, when things get deferred and things don't get done, things compound. And we've been active seeking out funds. Our next biggest hurdle is working with the state, because they have these ridiculous, you have to use their architects up in East Mumford. We can't use our own architects. We have to pay 3 times, we have to pay 3 times what you would normally pay locally to get something done. So we're really strapped to get anything done. It's a hard job. So that's the only reason we're coming before you, looking for some help here. I think we're on the way back. I feel really confident, but I know many of you have been to Agawam, and you've seen the shape they're in. I mean, this $1 million isn't even gonna put a dent, but it's a start, and we're doing, last year we got some slabs done. So we're working diligently, and we're just asking for a little neighborly helping hand here to defer the cost of the permitting. Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, I know last year when the Housing Authority requested and received from town meeting community preservation money, one of the arguments that the members of the authority made was that, well, if the state sees the town supporting the Housing Authority, then the state will up the ante on their own end. And so it seems to me, you've talked about $1 million project here. I'm assuming that some of those funds are from the state, because I know we didn't give you that much worth of community preservation money.
It's all coming from the state, yes.
Yeah, okay. So it seems that the state, at least in this instance, regardless of perhaps the technical difficulties of working with them to actually do the work, has at least come up with the money to fund some improvements there. So for that, I'm appreciative. My sense is that it's probably best to wait until we know what the amounts are before there is a waiver. I think that's probably prudent, so that we can at least tell the people, if we do waive it, how much we're waiving right then and there. If it's a percentage, then you'll know also what the percentage is and what additional money would have to come from you to make up the difference. So that's my thought on that. But I would like to thank the Housing Authority, the new Wareham Housing Authority, for getting some things done out there. It's a vast improvement on your forebears. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Thank you. I want to congratulate you for the progress that you have made. I think it's been phenomenal, and obviously the $1 million that you have applied for and been granted is a clear indication of some very hard work, some sleeves rolled up, and some connections being made. I sit on the other side of the table from you, and I am responsible to all of the citizens of the town of Wareham. And for me to indicate that I would be willing to waive fees that I would not waive for anyone else is not what I can, to be honest with you, support. So it wouldn't matter to me whether it was $1 or $87 million. Well, $1 I might give you. But I don't think that in this really tight fiscal problem that we're in, that we can be generous and an eleemosynary institution. How's that for a big word?
That's a really big word. Could you spell that and use it in another sentence?
Certainly.
Please?
It's not
I'm
a
sure you
spelling
can.
Do you want me to?
No, I'm just teasing.
She's teasing
I'm
you.
just teasing.
She's playing.
Ma'am, I'm playing with you. And I understand fully, if I could respond, I understand fully, having sat on that side of the table, that it's a very difficult situation the town is in. And it's very difficult when people come before you to ask for waivers. And I respectfully ask that you consider that this is not revenue that you would normally be counting on. This is coming to the community through the state. It's money that, to do these renovations, we wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't a gift, basically, from the state, kind of. I mean, maybe it is just our turn in the barrel and we're getting the money now. But this is not money that the town would otherwise have been able to count on. I don't feel like we're taking anything away. We would be adding back something to the town by doing these projects. So if you could take that into consideration, Mrs. Whiteside, I'd really appreciate
I
it.
appreciate that, Mrs. Donahue. The problem is that just because somebody didn't do the job for a really long time, I applaud you for bringing to upgrading what is being offered. But had it been being done on a regular basis, had the authority been a proactive authority for the years prior to whatever, the new, then we would have been getting those fees on a regular basis. So again, I'm sorry.
No, I'll let you finish, I'm sorry.
So I just, again, I applaud your efforts, I applaud your accomplishments. I'm cheap.
Well, that's, you know something, I just want to bring one thing to your attention.
Mhm.
That the greatest majority of our residents there are people that put their lives on the line in the military. They're veterans, okay? They didn't have big jobs up in Boston. They didn't have big jobs in Baltimore or whatever. They worked in our local community. They have very limited incomes. They don't have any other choice where to live. They are the citizens. They are our fathers, our grandparents. They deserve more than what they're getting. And they have lived in a situation, it's not their fault. And it's not their fault that we as a town did not do our job. And we owe it to them. We owe it to them to do everything possible that we can, because they've done everything for us.
And
Thank you.
may I also add into that, and I would like to comment to that, just put this in our proverbial brain to think about for the future. In 1962, there was a town meeting vote to establish the Wareham Housing Authority, and with that, and I understand we are citizens, and we are all Wareham. Wareham Housing Authority, we're citizens of the town of Wareham, the Selectmen, all of the other people, my family members that live on Great Neck Road, we're all Wareham, and we do pay our share. And, but I think to take it just one step further, that we're not, and I understand coming from CETA and the mini entitlement community, our status, what we're dealing with. It's also, so you understand, we live by the rents these people do pay, by what they can pay. So I understand the predicament of the town. I understand our situation in the town. So I just wanted to make that comment as well, just so you can understand.
Yeah, I understand. I was asked, you were asking us for our individual.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
How are you going to be coming at this? You got his answer. You now have where I'm going to be coming from, and there are 3 other members.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano?
All right, so I want to see how much we're talking about, and the same as Peter at this point. I might be willing to waive something, but I want to see what we're talking about.
It's fair enough.
Okay?
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Before I answer, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah,
We know where this
obviously,
is going.
It's obviously no reflection on the work that's being done now or on the people in there. We know that we have other residents in the communities that are seniors and low income, that are veterans as well, and we don't do it for them. We don't waive the fees. They were rebuilding the house for a veteran, we didn't waive the fees. You know, there's already, you know, there's no real estate tax on the property. You know, I can't recommend that the Board of Selectmen would do this, and it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to say, but simply when we toe the line on these, it would be a no from me.
It's a tough situation because what happens is the state is actually providing the money. We have an expense that we'll absorb no matter what. And unfortunately, the state, since 1974, was not supposed to have any unfunded mandates, et cetera. And of course, we know how that's worked. The other issue we have is it's not the town's fault that the facility was let to run down. It was the administration running the facility.
It's not even an issue for this.
It's not you. I'm saying,
No, but
but
I'm just
previously,
saying
I'm just saying is the town didn't have the ability to do anything. It was the administration running the housing authority for a long time that let things go. You know, they didn't apply for things, et cetera. It's all on record. So it bothers me a little bit to say the town let it happen. The town didn't.
Well, can I just, I understand.
But I'll
Okay.
just leave it at that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it is. I'm just making a comment from Mrs. Bronk's comment. I thought that was a little bit out of place. We'll go through this, at least as far as I'm concerned, see what it is, see what our costs are, because the bottom line is, we have a very tight budget. We're basically at a deficit. Any dollar we lose has to come out of somebody else, a job or a service, et cetera. So we need to see what it is, and then we can figure it out. We did go through this a year ago, and we did decline for that reason, because the state was paying, and that money doesn't come from us, it comes from the state.
Well, actually,
So we're
let me
not
just-
trading money.
Right, no, absolutely, and I want to let everybody, because we then talk about the state as if it's not us. It's actually formula funding that we're getting our money, so we're all participating in that by our taxes. So, I mean, I understand.
We pay, all of us pay taxes, which comes
Absolutely.
back somewhere else. But all I'm saying
Absolutely.
is, in this case,
Absolutely.
if we were trading from one hand to another in the town, I'd have no problem with it, because that means you're just playing a game anyways. But in this case here, the money's coming from the state, it's not coming from the town.
Well,
no.
no, what I would like to point out that makes it a little bit different, okay, is that this money for the permitting fees comes out of the Housing Authority's
We know
operational
that.
budget, okay? $12,000 is 3% of our entire budget. So that takes away from the ordinary maintenance and the ordinary things that we would be doing on a regular basis. It's detrimental in that respect to the Housing Authority, which is why we thought we would come and appeal to you about a waiver or a potential decrease in it. It doesn't come out of $1 million. The $1 million is to do the project. It's not to pay the permitting
No,
fees.
the contractors cannot, actually, the contractors at the building department are supposed to include their fees a lot of times, but they don't.
And just
No,
to
they never do.
actually give
They're
you
not.
a little
they do.
education about the money too, the money actually comes from our residents. We have a $494,800 budget, annual budget for our administration for our 667 program. And in that program, only $74,000 comes from the state. The other is made up of the rental income from our residents. So they participate in that. So when you guys talk about the state, I mean, $74,000 does come from this year's budget from the state, but the remaining is residential money.
We understand.
And I understand, and, you know, just for you to keep in mind, if we could pay straight costs, I would appreciate that. If that-
We need to find out what our
Right,
costs are gonna
and-
be first.
Exactly, because I went online today to try to figure out exactly what would be our fee, you know, and I really could not quite figure that out. So I had between $12,000 and $15,000, and then if it costs you $5,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 to actually come and permit us, then we would love to pay our cost. So it's no cost to the town,
Understand.
okay?
Mr. Moore will get back to us with the information, then we get back to you on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for your work on behalf of the residents.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Very
too.
much.
And I have a little.
We're
handout.
cheap too, Judy, so it's okay.
Okay, next up is some approval of some road estimates.
This was the one we had, I think, a week ago.
Well,
There
we
was
had
some
one
questions.
a week ago, which was Lakeview Drive, but there's also one for View Street and Agawam Drive. These are all, you know, the ones that they typically put together for us, and there's options available for the residents. I move that we approve both of these, Lakeview Drive, View Street, and Agawam Drive.
Can you, I'll second it, but can you remind me why we didn't do it before?
At the time, we asked him, Mr. Sullivan wasn't prepared. He hadn't checked with Mr. Menard, I think, and the board itself wasn't really prepared, so we asked extra week just to look into it. The bottom line is that before any work can be done, the residents on both of these two roads here have to basically pay municipal maintenance in advance before work will be done.
Correct.
Just so everybody
Yes,
understands.
we have to authorize it to go forward
Yes, we do,
under the bylaw.
under the bylaw.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt, you do have a letter of support for these, and
Yes, I know you,
Yep.
I got that. So we'll
Okay.
need, do we have a motion?
I
Yes.
made it.
And I
Okay,
seconded it.
Seconded. Any questions?
Nope.
None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Discussion and possible vote on policy to include in town meeting warrant.
This is something that came up, I can't remember exactly who sent this in to us. It could have been the town moderator, I'm not sure exactly. There was a question on this that I think even Mr. Bowen had something. And I think it's basically a real simple thing that they want us to include the warrant in the annual town report. I remember seeing that sometime in the past, and it seems to have disappeared, so.
It's haphazard. That was what my research showed, was that
It was
up to a certain
haphazard.
point, it was in there, then it wasn't in there, then
And
they
then it
were
came
in
back
there,
again.
so.
So let's make it a policy, you
Yep.
know, I hate making all these policies, but it's straightforward, it's not a fee, so Patrick should be happy.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, because when I was researching roads, there were years where I had to actually go into a totally different set of files. So I'm 100% in favor of this.
It'll make life easier to follow through.
Absolutely.
All
So
right.
I need a motion and,
Move that we, so moved, in
Second.
inclusion of town meeting warrant in the annual town report.
Which is policy number
Policy
1503.
15-03.
any questions on the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, abstained, 400, thank you.
Okay, review and vote special town meeting.
This is, we have until March 17th to basically vote to put articles on the warrant itself as we did with the regular town meeting. I had asked the office if we had any specials ready to go, we could discuss them.
It's, you know, this Article 21 I have here. You're invited,
That's the one that we did under the 48 hours that wasn't listed
oh.
on the thing. That's the one that was the mistake.
it is-
No, I don't think there's anything at this point. I know I'm gonna be meeting with
Okay.
the town moderator, town council, and Mr. Sullivan on Thursday to go over those, get the articles and the motions ready. But I don't believe there are any that are ready for the board to vote upon.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Sullivan?
yes.
All right, so we will need for the 10th, definitely, a list of the special town meeting warrant articles, because we need to get it done that week and the following week, because we have to close the warrant on the 17th as
Yep.
well. And I believe we've got probably as many specials as we had on the regular meeting.
You're
Pending.
gonna have some of the placeholders, which are basically the interdepartmental budget
Yep.
transfers, the special, the capital plan, the spring 2015 capital plan, which is right now essentially just the town clerk's voting machines and such. And we'll have other such items.
I think we have the possible purchase of land for the cemetery.
Well, that's one that has to be worked on this Thursday. That is
Yep.
brand spanking new.
Yes, it is. I think there's a few others, too.
Cemetery Commissioners are meeting on Thursday,
You know that we have a problem.
What time?
5:30,
Okay.
You know that Donna
In
can't sit on that committee, she's on.
room 27.
Did you know that?
So,
Okay,
just so Attorney Bowen knows,
Rich has to-
they're gonna wanna vote on it Thursday night at the cemetery commissioners. It's gonna be a two-part article, likely, one for the acquisition and one for a transfer of funds out of one of their accounts out of two accounts, okay, it gets even more complicated. But anyway, so one's gonna be the purchase, and the second is gonna be the funding mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's always on file, yeah.
But I'd like you to actually have that motion for the 5:30 meeting on Thursday.
Oh, sure.
In other words, I will work with you, I will bring you all of the documentation that you need.
if I get the description in front of me, we can put it together.
Yes, as the board gets older, it's looking for parking places for itself in the afterlife, so that's what's going on here.
Okay.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda. I move we approve the regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting minutes of February the 10th, 2015, with one change from the English teacher. On section 9, liaison reports, the word should be be instead of me. So,
Okay. Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by
I'll second.
Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions with the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Abstain.
3-0-1.
Whiteside abstaining.
Yes.
I move we approve the regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners minutes from February the 17th, 2015,
Second.
with no corrections
Second.
from the English teacher.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 4-0-0.
And lastly, I move we approve the executive session minutes and hold from February the 17th, 2015.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Hold on a minute.
Not on that vote, but did we, do we have the tie and bond issue on there? Did we?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
You
We
missed
haven't-
it. Number,
Yeah,
number
aye.
I,
Oh,
Patrick,
yeah.
sorry, we missed that.
What?
Aye on the agenda.
Number I on the agenda, we
Item
missed.
I.
Okay, well, we'll go back to it.
Let's go back to number I.
We can go back to it, it's not a problem. Not a problem, we can back up. Yeah, see? Only because you want it, we're gonna back up.
This item here, number I, is something that we discussed almost a month ago, that we were going to invite all the sewer commissioner candidates to come in and meet with Ty and Bond and the board to better understand what the proposal is for a use rate versus the EDU rate, so they would all have a good background to be able to understand what was being proposed, what the board is probably going to endorse but not actually put into place, which they will have to put in place once they take oath of office May 1st. And I think also there was, besides that, which we can not really discuss, but we have the issue of 3 members of the Finance Committee that are running for the sewer commissioners. And I think they have an issue that they have to resign before they can take oath of office, if those 3 get in.
Correct. Boards, commissions, and committees, you're not allowed
There
on
was
the
a
finance
question,
committee
there was
as
a
well.
question on that, but we're
as
not going
well-
to discuss it here now, but this is for town council to give them those 3 candidates that.
Also,
your
you
opinion.
can't be a town employee. It's the only committee like that.
Yeah.
And it's in the Green Book. You
It's
can look it right up.
actually in Mass General Law as well,
Right in
unfortunately.
the Green Book,
Okay,
municipal finance.
so what date would we like to do? Mr. Sullivan, do you want to work something out with Ty and Bond, get back to us, and we'll try and make it work for everybody? I
Wait, do
believe
you want to do this as a separate,
I'd like to do it separate, not from our regular meetings. I believe I got a note from Mrs. Miller that the candidates' night is the 26th, moving on, of
Yes.
March.
That's
So I'd
correct.
like to get it there at least a week before then for them, so they all, when they talk about it, they have an understanding what's going on.
yeah, evening meeting, is that?
Saturday morning or evening?
We could try either for Saturday morning. It shouldn't take more than an hour, but you need
Like
to
that.
get a hold of Michael as well and ask him what his schedule's like.
Yep, Saturday morning by, should be fine, I'll ask him. So that's good.
Okay. We'll take care of that, because we promised we would do that for them. Okay, back to consent agenda is all done?
All right, yep, next up is Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'm going to ask that the next Board of Selectmen meeting, we vote upon with the, really something that I know the road commissioners want to bring forward, but time is of the essence, so let me bring it forward to the Board of Selectmen. The Shell Point parking lot currently has a kiosk. I think we should leave the kiosk there, however, allow parking for residents with the beach and dump sticker as well. In other words, so if there's non-residents going down there, they have to use the kiosk. And if our residents that have the beach and dump sticker from, outside of the parking area, or the green zone, how it's affectionately known, they can park there as well using the beach and dump sticker.
Yeah, I had a lot of people living outside of Onset were making that complaint.
Without
Go ahead,
paying?
Mr. Tropiano.
They just have the sticker.
I want to ask Rich this because I can remember once upon a time when we wanted to do something similar to that with residents and non-residents, and there was a legality issue about something you couldn't do. And could you ask Rich to weigh in on that?
Yeah, because I know if
He's
you
gonna
have
have
like
to
a boat,
I'll do your one better. We're gonna have to research that.
because I know that's an issue with the
Well,
boat ramp.
let-
There's several issues there that are too complicated to ask him for an opinion on tonight.
Well,
I'll just throw a broad brush thing
Yeah.
out there.
yeah, broad brush.
You know, with town-funded facilities, you can usually distinguish. If it's purely town-funded or purely town property or things along those lines. But if you're getting into a situation where there was state funding or especially federal funding, you can't draw those distinctions. I know I've been through this many times. For example, building marinas with state or federal funds, you have to let anybody moor there regardless of where they're from. So it's those types of issues that we'll have to look
They
at.
have a boat ramp like that.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Right in front of my
Right in
house.
front of Peter's house.
Yeah, as good as in front of your house.
I think
Like it's losing a
on
drunk.
Shell Point, I don't know if we ever took any federal funds. I don't know when they reclaimed sand and filled that, whether that was done with state or federal money, or whether the town did that as well.
Or did they use Chapter 90 money? I mean, God only knows.
Yeah, there's no way for me to know that one.
We'd have to know all that
Yeah, I understand.
to really be able to figure out the legalities behind
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
The next item is, I've heard back from our LED solar light contractors, and it looks like we will receive the incentives for the Hammond School project, and we'll be able to use the funds that we've already set aside to pay for our portion, which should be, between $6,000 to $10,000 out of a $20,000+ project.
Great.
So I'm going to sign to have that go forward. I know in speaking about, at this point, and it's been mentioned already, pretty much all of us are sick of the snow. You're sick of coming out
Not
of
me.
you're sick of coming out of your driveway.
I wanted to hang myself from a tree the other day, but not.
You've heard the stories of people that are sick of coming out of their own driveways, and they're just basically gunning it because they don't, it's, they're sort of sick and tired of playing it cautiously. And one of the other things is, when those ruts freeze over, I'm sorry, we tried to bring the front end loaders down to scrape those.
doesn't work.
Mr. Tropiano from plowing, when those ruts freeze, what's the chance of scraping those off?
None.
And when you have one day, I think we had one day that reached above the freezing point for a few hours. That was not enough to get down to the pavement to scrape it all off. And no, we don't have the salt to spread it around on all the secondary roads.
You'd have to salt
In
the hell
fact,
out of it.
in fact, somebody decided to go to the municipal maintenance facility and help themselves to it, our salt pile.
Yeah.
So,
That was the pickup truck that pulled in.
so
He loaded his whole truck up.
it's, that obviously didn't help our situation. So it's locked up tight. Nobody's gonna get in there. And, we ask for the patience. I understand it's frustrating. Nobody wants to drive down the roads with the ruts. It's, I was visiting my mother the other day, and she's over in East Sandwich, and the paved portion, the public portion there is worse than the private, because the private's all dirt, so it's all just a sheet of ice, so they're lucky on that, rather than the ruts.
You need a Zamboni.
Yeah, at least you're not bumping around. So You know, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation. It's frustrating. You're going down to 2-3 miles an hour. I've driven through Swift's Beach, and you know, you're sick and tired of hearing it, but I drive a little Prius, so I was bumping around in there. I know it takes a lot to get through that. And there's portions where, yeah, you're going to hit some of the undercarriage. So it's, I really wish that the initial storm we had, if we could have gotten it all done. We couldn't. If you look back at it, we haven't had the chances. I'm looking at guess what? It's snowing again tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to get more snow Thursday.
Should be snowed up
But
by now.
we're starting to get some of the rain. It looks like next week we're going to hit, not during the night, but during the day, a couple stretch of weather, 39 degrees. So hopefully we can start scraping up. And I know you're sick of it, but listen, it's March. We shouldn't have this. It's, I'm not dialing in the weather machine, so.
Some real bad news.
Yeah.
I listened, I went on the National Weather
Trying to think
Service. The National Weather Service says that it's going to be a very cold month, and don't expect those 40-degree days to come too much together. According to them, the way this trough sinks down and comes across, there's no way it's gonna move certainly not by the end of the month.
And once we are done with all this lovely snow, we know we're going to have major issues of potholes, frosties flooding is,
Flooding's gonna be the real.
flooding, then potholes, frosties, then the sand. And we've put in for MEMA for the initial damage assessment, the sand removal, and for cleaning of all our catch basins. Because of the salt shortage, we've had to use just an inordinate amount of sand, nothing that we want to use on those levels. And that's going to mean that instead of cleaning a few catch basins, probably all across our town, we're going to need to pull those out. So we're seeking that as a damage assessment, trying to get funds from MEMA for it. So it's it's clearly everybody's frustrated, our own staff as well. But you get sent some messages and stuff. I really appreciate the positive notes. And I understand the ones that are not so positive. I just ask when you're calling the staff, when you're speaking to them, just realize, as angry as you may be, and you think that their responses aren't being the nicest. They've probably had a whole bunch before that. It's no excuse. I hope that they're being professional. I know that they are, and just understand what everyone's going through. So thank you.
Me too.
That's it?
Wait,
I have
wait.
a couple
No,
things.
I'm going to end with something you rarely get from me. Good news.
Hey.
We always
So-
get good news.
I received this from Representative Susan Williams Gifford, that the Baker administration has announced $34 million increase in unrestricted municipal aid and over $100 million in the Chapter 70 formula. So the governor, who ran on providing more money to municipalities and such, is keeping up with his word. It was $105.3 million boost to Chapter 70. We are heavily reliant on it, so we need every penny. It's the first step, but it's a great step, and I hope that this is what comes through. This could help us out with, I don't have the formulas for it on the funding, but it could reach several $100,000 if it really came through for us regarding the formula. So I appreciate the governor and obviously our representative and who's ever working on this. It's wonderful.
It's gonna help our deficit.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So,
Good.
thank
That
you.
it?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Liaison reports, Mr. Titlebaum.
I don't think I have anything.
Ms. Whiteside.
I have two, and there's not really liaison reports, but in the newspaper, Meals on Wheels, which is run out of Plymouth, is looking for drivers, desperately looking for drivers. And there's a number in
Desperately seeking Susan.
the Wareham Week, there's an actual number where you can call, and I'm sure you can go through downstairs as well. The other thing is that I think most people in the town of Wareham got something called a rental property notice. And unless you own rental property, that was actually sent out in error. So if you don't have rental property, please just throw it away. That's the message from the Board of Health.
I wouldn't say it was sent out in error. It was a blanket mailing that went out to everyone, and it's to reach everybody that's potentially, and if you have a home, potentially it's a rental. So.
Well, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, it says because you have one, and if you don't have one, the way that it's worded is a little difficult. That's all.
Mr. Tropiano?
I'm set.
I've had a few meetings outside the town with all the snowstorms, everything is piled up. Again, we met with GATRA last week, and as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there is new transportation plans for Wareham. They are working, trying to figure out how to get transportation from Wareham, probably behind Merchants Way is where the ideal place is for the bus stop, going over to New Bedford and Fall River. They still have the issue between GATRA and CERTA, which are the two different bus operations where you have to cross over the line. Marion, as an example, and I think Rochester, do not have bus service. For some reason, they've not signed up with either unit. So we have that little opening there to get across as well. But they are working on it, and it's actually 3 different organizations that are trying to fix this, as well as the hospitals. So I expect to see something in the next few months. As far as the commuter train goes, I've been told we're probably going to get pushed back over 2 to 3 months because of the massive problems with the MBTA. Basically, Governor Baker is locked in the next 2 to 3 months to get that straightened out, but we're still online to get this resolved. We've also sent out a request to the Lieutenant Governor, who's been tasked with working with cities and towns to work on their issues and help them. I sent a request out to our town plus 6 other towns around us that I've been working with. I've already got responses back from several, and we'll be setting up a meeting through Mrs. Gifford as well, and probably Kiko, the representative north of us that covers a couple other towns, to sit and have the Lieutenant Governor come, hopefully here to Wareham, and sit down and talk to us, and we talk to her about what our issues are and what we need help at. So I'm looking forward to that. That just happened over the last couple of days. I really haven't had any other board meetings. Everything has been kind of caught up, so that's about all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Good night, Wareham.